Let's bring in Georgia Congressman McCormick, who sits on the House Armed Services Committee and House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us ahead of what could be a pivotal moment. So what do you think about this potential meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin that could happen as soon as next week?
I'd love to see the mood actually change in Europe. What we've seen so far are two countries that are a long ways off from any sort of negotiation point. President Trump has been very frustrated, especially with Vladimir Putin and his inability to actually make any sort of concessions. Putin has not been acting in good faith. He's been grinding this out. He has about 5 times the population, about 10 times the GDP, and he thinks he's going to win this war by actually just grinding Ukraine to a stop. But I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the other element that could that's a factor here is President Trump's track record. I mean, if you look at it, he gave Iran 60 days to make a deal. On the 61st day, he gave the green light to Israel to attack, and closer to home and impacting Putin much more is what happened yesterday with the secondary sanctions that he placed on India for purchasing Russian oil. He said he would, and he did it. So the fact that Vladimir Putin knows that Donald Trump doesn't bluff has to be a factor here.
Absolutely. I've been saying all along that India was the problem. Them buying and redisseminating Russian oil at a cheap rate is not good for anybody, especially for European countries, which are essentially funding this war through India also. Once we cut Russia off with their main income supply, they will be crippled. Quite frankly, I've said a long time ago, after talking to the Supreme Allied Commander, that this is a very winnable war without us dedicating any troops, by basically choking them off financially and also by giving Ukraine the means to fight back. They're a third world country, but they've done very well in this war despite their disadvantages because they're fighting for their homeland. When I went over to Kyiv and talked to President Zelensky, his only motivation was to survive. These people are going to try to fight for their homeland. They're a top 5 country in resources, which we can actually benefit from for generations. Otherwise, Russia controls those assets and will disseminate it to North Korea, Iran, and China. That's not good for us.
Yeah, so, and you're right about that. I mean, if you think back to the beginning of this war, people gave Russia or Ukraine about 2 weeks, and look where we are right now, years later, and the map of Russian-controlled territory in Ukraine has barely changed. So if a negotiation does take place, what could it look like?
That's a really hard thing to suppose. Obviously, I think Russia is going to keep Crimea. The question is, will they keep the land that they've already grabbed in the eastern portion of Ukraine? What does that look like? We've already made deals with resources out of Ukraine. How is that going to be affected? I'm sure Zelensky doesn't want to give any ground at all. So that's going to be the interesting point to see what Trump can actually reach on negotiations.
Yeah, okay, so back here at home, there is this redistricting fight that is playing out. It started in Texas, and now it is spreading. Vice President J.D. Vance is going to be meeting with Indiana Governor Mike Braun to talk about redistricting. On the Republican side also, there are conversations happening in other states, in Missouri and Florida. On the Democrat side, conversations about redistricting happening in California, New York, and Maryland. How do you feel about this, and how big will this get?
I get a little bit worried. I mean, I want to win just like everybody else, but once everybody starts doing this, we end up with some really gerrymandered districts. It's not necessarily representative of what the United States is. This is why I think we've become more polarized over years, but maybe in some ways it will end up with more moderate districts, quite frankly, because people are trying to eke out wins. You'll end up with more moderate districts that people are trying to win, but it's going to go back and forth. You're going to spend a lot more money on re-elections. It's going to be interesting to see what the Democrats do in response to this, especially in California, where they have a semi-balanced approach to how they do reapportionment. But several states, especially heavily Democratic states, have been cheating at this for a long time. And this is our response, is basically trying to win back some seats. What they did with immigration to basically give them the volume for extra representation is the first step in the egregious process that we've had to slant elections towards them in the future. And I think this is just us pushing back in a very real way.
Yeah, it is clear we are locked in a battle between red states and blue states right now, and we will watch as it all unfolds. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Semper Fi.
Back at you.